Katie Babs, and welcome to No Cover.
Best original material for a chance to change their lives.
Now let's welcome the judges.
That's right. We have a TV show for metalheads by the name of No Cover. So this is a TV show created by Sumerian Records, or at least funded by Sumerian Records. And it's pretty much like any other sort of music show where you've got judges, you got talent, and pretty much it's like the X Factor, American Idol. But this time, we're talking about metal. And that's kind of cool because, let's be honest, in all these other, publications of music, TV shows, metal has always been on like the sidelines, except for maybe that one video from X Factor, which I think we all know. So to see one that's actually more dedicated to the metal and alternative music scene is a breath of fresh air. It means that, yes, we as metalheads are getting represented in the media. And it's done by none other than Sumerian Records, which in the past has given us some great acts. Not so many good ones now, but definitely in the past they had it on lock. So without wasting more time, I'm going to be looking at the first episode and just talk to you about my thoughts on it.
God, son, that's wonderful.
Now to kick it off, we need to know the stakes of a show of this caliber. What are the competitors fighting for? What is the grand prize?
A record deal, a booking agency, management contract, tons of gear, slots on some of the biggest music.
And I don't know if it's me who's been in just the industry a bit, but when I see things like a record deal, a booking agency, and all these things, all I can think of at the moment is like, your prize is to give us all your money and you'll get like a 20% cut.
They ask you how you are, you just have to say that you're fine when you're not really fine. You just can't get into it because they would never understand.
Because in all honesty, as we've seen with the way industry's going, self-distribution has become so popular with websites like DistroKid that the need for a record label has started to have a diminishing need at this point, unless you're like a really, really big band who doesn't want to deal with the whole self-distribution part. But I guess, like, what else can you provide as a record label? Then you get a record deal. So it's pretty standard, the prizes. You'd find it in any other show. Now, moving to the judges. Judges are a very important part of these kind of shows because for the most part, the judges are the people you see the most of. They're the recurring characters in this anime, and in general, tend to have the most personality and the most experience in the field that they're judging on. In this competition, our judges are Alice Cooper, Gavin Rosedale, Lizzie Hale, Bishop Briggs, and Tosin Abasi. So we're ranging quite a gamut of people in the sort of alt metal scene. In the case of like Bishop Briggs and maybe Gavin Rosedale, I don't really know what they have like in the metal and alt scene. But at the same time, watching this whole first episode, I realized that they didn't really care too much about sticking to the metal genre at all. And with Tosin being the only one really representing it, yeah, it's been more of a mainstream show than I was initially anticipating. Now, when it comes to the shows, let's take American Idol / X Factor as an example. The judges are kind of your villains. They're the people you're fighting against, to overcome their judgment and to win that prize. Because let's be honest, in all those shows, I never really cared about any of the talent. Cared about any of the talent. And with people like Simon Cowell and Louis Walsh, they all brought this insane level of personality and vitriol that, it makes us remember them. Like, I remember Simon Cowell even to this day, even though he hasn't done that show in ages. And if I'm being honest, when I compare those people to these, it's just not the same. If I'm being honest, all these people, their personality just seems so flat. It's as though like they were all uber scripted.
You're just a pure artist, an incredible man.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
There's never a moment I felt as though it was real what they were saying. It all felt really like rehearsed.
You guys are making good points.
I also found that there was a lack of drama coming from the judges, because let's be honest, for a lot of these TV shows, the drama is why you stick around.
I want to be made love to.
It's great to have all that support and positive feedback between all the competitors and all the judges, but let's be honest, we want the drama. We want it to get violent, and it's just not coming from these judges. If I'm being honest, it's a weird thing to say, but I find the judges to be too positive with all their feedback. Brutal. And the way they interacted with the bands. Maybe this will change. Again, this is just all based off the first episode, but in all honesty, I thought it was just kind of boring. The judges were kind of boring to me. Granted, I did find it funny throughout the show every time they cut to Tosin Abasi, and he always had this look of utter disapproval. All I could think of, he was probably thinking in his head, hang on, that guitar is missing like 2 strings, and having like Bishop Briggs next to him going like, dude, that's just a regular looking guitar. Yeah, not all guitars have 8 strings, Tosin. As for Alice Cooper, yeah, he was all right, but I think it would have been funnier if they had somebody like Ozzy Osbourne who generally doesn't know where he is.
We listen to a lot of Justin Bieber. Are we gonna Justin Bieber?
Who the fuck's Justin Bieber?
Good.
But overall, yeah, the dynamic between the judges themselves seemed very fake as well. It all felt super scripted. So that's my take on the judges. Now we're gonna get into the meat of this, and that's the bands themselves. And the first band that came on was a band called Scarlet View. My God, what a way to start off. They're probably the most generic sounding rock band that I've ever heard in my life. And honestly, I kind of felt bad as well, because I feel like the front of house guy for this band did them dirty, because not only were they sounding generic as hell, the vocal mix on this was so dry. It almost felt as if the front of house guy didn't even bother to mix this guy at all. And as such, his vocals had this very weak like nature to them. They weren't really like, having any impact. And it just kind of felt like they were getting drowned in the music itself. And funny enough, the judges agree with me. Like, they're all giving, the same sort of remarks, like, yeah, kind of boring. You need to do something a bit more creative. So that was the first band. Now, the highlight of the show actually came from the second band called The Native Howl, which was this band that somehow combined bluegrass and thrash metal. Now, on the surface, that sounds like a really weird concept, but the way they described it, which I think was a great way to describe it, is that both thrash music and bluegrass music, or I guess fast-paced country, tend to have a very similar BPM standard. So when you combine the two, it actually turns into a very cohesive narrative of musical composition. And on top of that, what was really cool is they had a banjo, they had an acoustic guitar, and it just weirdly all worked well together. The performance itself was very engaging. It was very energetic. You can even tell from the, the judges' responses, they were all getting into it. Except for Tosin, he more had the look of, why are we still here? Just to suffer. Not only is this not an 8-string, it's not even an electric guitar, and what is a banjo doing here?
Oh yeah!
And continuing that narrative, like, I like to think that Tosin Abasi is like kind of the Simon Cowell, but he's a very quiet, like, I don't know what the hell's going on here sort of look. So that was Native Howl, really cool band, and I actually would recommend them. Like, if you want something completely different, completely out of the norm, like if you had some kind of background in country music, but you wanted it to be heavier, this is kind of your band. They're really out of nowhere, and they're really cool. So yeah, the Native Howl. Pretty dope. The next band we had was Art and the Resistance, which was this kind of weird art rock band.
You gotta sell 1,000,000 copies to be relevant. What happened to music itself?
And we'll see later, this was not the song they used to actually, enter the competition. They actually used a very standard sort of like rock, country sort of song. For this really art rock thing, they had like a keyboard player, they were doing a lot there, and it was kind of funky as well. In my opinion, it was a chaotic mess of a song. There was nothing really gluing this all together. There wasn't like one base genre that was determining what this sound was, and as such, it got very chaotic. It got very out of hand, and by the end of it, I was very confused about what I just listened to. Oh, quick side note. For all these acts, they never actually show the entire performance because, let's be honest, that'd be kind of, tedious and really boring. So they only show like the sort of the beginning and the end portion of each song. So maybe in that middle part of the song, there was like a moment where they actually transitioned properly into this other genres. It could be that way. I'm not sure. But from what I heard, it was good, but they were just all over the place. And that came from the judges' comments, which I agree, which was just like, it felt very chaotic. It felt, and I quote Tosin Abasi when he said that it had like a bit of novelty to it. Like it wasn't going to be like an actual, thing. It wouldn't be a thing. It was like a one-off thing. Kind of agree with myself. The judges did talk about a guitar solo that was apparently really good, and the musician was really good. Unfortunately, as, me watching, I didn't get to see any of that because I didn't have the full, episode out. Maybe there's a place to watch the full episode. I don't know. But that was Art and the Resistance. Next was a band called Night Spin, which I don't really know the genre very well. It's kind of like indie rock of some sort. They use the comparisons with like bands like Modest Mouse and stuff like that, and Iggy Pop. And And honestly, as a concept, it wasn't a bad song. It wasn't for me, that's for sure. But it was still a great song. It had this kind of like, I guess, bluesy tone to it. If I'm being honest, Nightspin, they were just a standard sort of like breakup song with kind of like a bluesy fling to it. I don't got really much to say about it. It was a good song. The judges liked it. Yeah, but moving on. And finally, they had this act called Tony K, which was a solo guy with a guitar, a guy probably in his like 60s or something.
My way right out of here. I'm gonna aim a bit lower, be a little bit more insincere.
And I didn't know this, but he was actually the director for Johnny Cash's music videos, as well as Danny California by Red Hot Chili Peppers. Like, he directed those, and I was like, damn, that's cool. And then on top of that, he was apparently the director for this movie called American History X, which I was like, damn, that's really cool. So this is not a nobody, this is a somebody in a way. And he kind of performed this really cool sort of Bob Dylan, Johnny Cash style guitar playing, very soulful, lyricism was on point. It was really funny at the end of this performance because, of course, I'm mainly focusing on Tosin, but like Tosin like mentioned like he really loved the lyrics, and I was like, yeah, you know what, Tosin, you're the perfect person to be talking about lyrics and reviewing lyrics. You probably know your lyrics so unbelievably well, especially when you're writing them for your own band. Just jokes, just jokes. So when it comes to the decision, long story short, Native Howl won. They were the best act, they were the most unique act, the most engaging act, and now finally they had this really cool concept called the Mercy Counts, which was kind of like a second chance at the competition. So pretty much the people who didn't go through got to have a conversation with these 3 people who are honestly the most executive looking music people I've ever seen. It's almost like these 3 people went to a costume store and asked, yeah, give me music manager, tour manager. Especially this guy who literally looked like he goes up to people and goes like, hey kid, I'm gonna make you a big rock star. Yeah, and I'm gonna give you an 80-20 split on the revenue, which, I'll be honest, that's a pretty good deal for you, son. So in this round, the remaining bands, they went through, they got feedback from all the bands, they got feedback from the 3 people, and of course it was Tony K that got a second chance at this show.
And I would love to see what you do next. It's not a pass.
Okay.
It's a go.
At least I think he did. Yeah, he did. But anyway, that was the first episode of the No Cover show by Sumerian Records. Overall, the show is pretty okay. It's not the greatest thing in the world, and I think it would be really cool if the show actually would do a season 2 where they actually have a live studio audience if they can afford it. Because I feel like if there's a live studio audience, it'll add a lot more energy, because a lot of the bands and a lot of the comments the bands got were like they only got into their own by the end.
Part at the end, I felt like that was the moment that you guys were like the most you.
And I think that's a lot to do with the fact that if you don't have a live audience watching you and you just have 5 judges who are designed to look very, intense with you, you're not gonna, really relax and put on an insane performance. So hopefully in a season 2, they might get an actual audience to watch the bands instead of just 5 people silently looking at them. But all I can say, I'm gonna continue watching all the episodes, and in fact, I'm gonna be watching them on stream, so you guys can watch with me. I'll probably do like 1 or 2 episodes per stream and then go into the user-submitted music. So that'll be happening for the next few weeks. But besides that, yep, that was No Cover, the first episode. If you want to go watch it, I'll leave the link down below for it. And besides that, let me know what you think of the show. If you enjoyed this video, give it a like and also subscribe for more content such as this. And besides that, stay hydrated, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.